totally ready. I'm always ready.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, that one I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I really don't. When we started the office, we came out of OMA, my wife and I, and my partner and I, and we were, working on these very big projects, and kind of all-consuming. I had worked there for 10 years, and I was a partner, and so when we started the office, we really didn't know what we were going to do, because it was just such an intense environment. So in a way, that's why we called it work, because we thought we're just going to work through it, So we're just going to do whatever. We had this we called it the 5-year plan, which was say yes to everything. So it doesn't matter how big, how small, if it's this or that, just kind of see what happens. It was a very boom philosophy, but just see what happens and kind of through the work start to define the practice. And so in a sense, it's really only recently, the last couple of years, where we really started to understand what we do. And in fact, it's now, I guess, one of the main motivations behind our office is actually to start to define this project for ourselves much clearer. So I think what we're kind of coming to, the main motivation is really to deal with this aspect of nature in terms of how architecture and nature and cities and nature can work together for each other, against each other, etc. And in a way, what we're interested in at all scales is the relationship between the city, the wilderness, and the kind of incredibly broad range between. So even in the smallest projects, we're always interested in kind of creating a jolt of nature, or some kind of confrontation between the built and the unbuilt, or the white and the green. What inspires us is architecture. I feel like we really are interested in architecture and the history of architecture, and just looking, kind of rediscovering, rereading the canon. I think that we are constantly reading, looking, and thinking about architecture. On the one hand. On the other hand, I think the exact opposite also. So people who have nothing to do with architecture, philosophers and gardeners and scientists. So I think for us it's a kind of schizophrenic life where we are just kind of nerdy architects on the one hand, and yet on the other hand really get inspired by the people that we work with, consultants and artists and other people. For us, it's the environment, and to kind of build responsibly without creating boring green architecture. To really get inspired by the environment. I think that's the biggest challenge, is how to kind of perform responsibly without falling back on cliche or getting obsessed with the technical details or just becoming about efficiency, to really marry the kind of exuberance in terms of design that we had the last, let's say, 10, 15 years, the kind of really pushing of design with a kind of sense of social and environmental responsibility. Because I think all too often it's kind of like one or the other, like you're either doing social or you're doing sustainable or you're doing design. So for us it's really a big challenge to kind of marry the two, I would say. I think the architect is the last generalist. That's and I think we have to hold on to that. It's really, if you look at everything from law to politics, to policy, it's this kind of incredible splitting into specialization. I think there's a kind of pull of specialization throughout almost every other discipline, from the sciences to even to parts of the arts. And so I think that we have to hold on and just claim generalism, and also take a little bit more of a role in policy and politics and power. I think that architects got frightened of their own power somewhere around 1970 and basically stopped thinking big. And I also feel that the future of the architect, I think, is going to be much more about kind of channeling a network and working between things. I think that the kind of baby boomer mentality of it's either this or it's that has been very destructive. And so I think that our generation, and let's say the younger generation, is much more facile, adept at kind of making connections, between thinking big and small, for example, or sustainable and design. But it's more about and than or. All right, I have to think about this provocation question. Provocation.
If you're not provoked, that's also fine.
Maybe I may not be a provoked person. Yes. What provokes me? I'm not that provoked. I think, I honestly, I think provocation is, that's part of the problem. Like that it was our way or the highway. And in a sense, I think we're more about optimism, inclusion.
Good. Thank you.
All right.